Hello and welcome. I'm Kenzie.
And I'm Carli, and this is Ask a Therapist.
Each week, we explore life's most relatable questions, from relationships and boundaries to burnout and self-worth, all through a therapist's lens.
We're licensed therapists, but this isn't therapy. It's a place for insight, reflection, and a little humor along the way.
Your questions,
our insights.
Ask a Therapist. This podcast is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. The content shared should not be considered a substitute for professional mental health care, diagnosis, or treatment. We strongly encourage listeners to seek help from a licensed mental health professional for any personal or psychological concerns.
Any advice or commentary offered is based solely on the information provided. As such, we cannot guarantee any specific outcomes, and the feedback given should not be interpreted as professional mental health advice. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis, please call 911, 988, or 211. Hello, and welcome back. We are really excited for today's episode. We've got a really good question that I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to that does center around the holidays. I know we're like right in the thick of the holiday season. But to start us off, we have an icebreaker question. It's a good one. Kenzie, what is the best piece of advice that you have ever received?
Ooh, okay. Well, I feel like I've received a lot of great pieces of advice from many people in my life. And so it's hard to pick just one. And also I feel like I'm not able to think of them all right now. But something that I refer to often and I use a lot is something that my dad says a lot, and it is that bad news doesn't get better with time. And as somebody who does not like to upset other people or like who is always trying to find a way to like make everything work, it is such a good reminder at certain points in my life of like, bad news doesn't get better with time. You just have to address it. You have to acknowledge it, and you have to kind of move forward. And so I use that one a lot. I feel like I use it in sessions a lot too, but definitely use it in my own life a lot. So that's a great one that I always draw from. So thank you, Dad. And Mom, I know that you also have given me great advice too. I'll think of that in another episode.
Can't forget Mom. Mom's got great advice as well.
All the way.
Yeah, I kind of had a hard time with this one because I wanted to have like something really, like a really good quote or something really profound. But if I'm honest, one piece of advice that really just sticks with me is that like everything that is good in life happens outside of your comfort zone. And that is, for me, I find is very true because I very much tend to avoid discomfort. Like I would prefer to just kind of stay in my own little bubble, in my own little box. And I mean, even doing this podcast, for example, is like very much stepping outside of that. But what I'm realizing is like life happens outside of that box. And most of the things that at least I want, I won't speak for everyone else, but most of the things that I want require some sort of stretching, some sort of pulling, some sort of adjustment, some sort of adapting. And so just trying to get comfortable with the fact that I'm not always going to feel comfortable, and that's okay because there can be a lot of rewards on the other side of that. So that's the one that stands out to me.
Yeah, I love that one. I like that too. And it's just a good reminder, like sometimes you look at people, like you look at yourself and then you look at people that maybe have what you want or are doing things that you want to do. And you kind of just assume that like they've never felt any discomfort or it's completely easy for them. And it's a good reminder of like, no, that's not true. It's discomfort is hard, but it also is okay to push yourself as long as it's safe. And so I love that quote. I think that's such a good one.
Agreed. Okay.
All right.
Well, to our question.
Yes. So we have a question that's just so, it's so important. It's so relevant for the holidays. I think it's something that is not talked about a lot. You know, this is a season of excitement and joy and a lot of just emphasis placed on those emotions. And it can feel really isolating for people who are grieving or are having a difficult time around the holidays. And so I'm really appreciative that we got this question. I am looking forward to processing it with you, Carli. Our question for this week is, any advice for someone dealing with grief during the holidays? My father passed away in May, and I'm dreading having to make it through the holidays without him. This used to be my favorite time of year, but all of the things I typically look forward to now just make me sad. Friends and family keep reaching out to make plans, and I don't know how to tell them I just want to be alone.
Mm. Yeah, when I read this question, I mean, my heart broke for this person. And it is such a common experience, but it doesn't make it any easier to sit with. The fact that overwhelmingly the world is in a happy space, right? And it feels, I'm sure, so isolating to be in a state of grief when the expectation is that, things are happy and jolly and it's the music and it's the decorations and every store you go in, there's a reminder, and it's just like it's so overwhelming that I just kind of wanted to say to this person, like, I could understand kind of wanting to be alone and wanting to withdraw and feeling like there's just so much distance between you and the world around you. I think that's one of the hard things about grief in general, is that the world goes on and sometimes you're kind of left just right where that moment happened. It's not lost on me that they're saying this happened in May, which lets me know this is still very fresh.
Wow.
Even though it's been a few months, like, you're still going through the first round of firsts without your
Yeah.
dad. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So,
Yeah.
that first year, the first birthday without him, his birthday without him, holidays, anticipate that this is just hard. And so part of me was like, it is okay that you're not feeling it this year.
Yeah.
It's possible that the way you feel this year may not be the way that you feel forever, but it's still so fresh that, like, it's okay to allow yourself to grieve in whatever way you need to, because this is all new and fresh. So just feeling so much empathy and wanting to help them maybe remove some of the pressure to have to show up in a certain way, to have to be at the family events. You got to take it one day at a time because it's new.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a part of feeling grief, like you were saying, it's this constant in your life. But I think that when the holidays come up, it's almost such this contrast of your experience and what you're going through right now. And then, you walk outside and how you see everybody else kind of interacting in the world. And it just feels so isolating. And it feels like such a contrast between this time of year and kind of the joy that maybe is around it and what you're going through and how you're feeling and how you're experiencing it. And it's going to be different. Like, this year is going to be a completely different experience of the holidays than you've ever had before. So,
Yeah.
so much of the joy that comes from holidays is the people that you surround yourself with and the relationships and the meaning that that has. And so to be missing such an important person in your life that you care about and that you love so much is incredibly challenging and incredibly painful. And so I just want to echo that thought too, of like, it is going to be really hard and you need to take care of yourself in this process, no matter what that looks like. I am thinking about, and my first response and reaction to this question was just like getting emotional myself. I know how hard grief can be, especially around the holiday season. And I don't know that this person is going through this, but I think sometimes there's this need, this desire to hide yourself. Like, sometimes you just get this feeling of like, I just want to run away. I don't want to have to engage with anybody. I don't want to have to like adjust my emotional experience based on who I'm around, and it feels easier to just be on my own. And so the other thing that I would just want to say to this person is you don't have to show up in any way for anybody else. You don't have to protect anybody else's emotional needs at this time. You can show up in the way that you need to and ride the waves of grief. And maybe you do need to be alone sometimes, but if you do need some support, it's also okay to show up or to ask for that and not feel like you have to perform.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because, one of the things that stuck out to me was they said friends and family keep reaching out to make plans.
Yeah.
In this particular case, suffering this loss, like other people are aware. And so they're probably checking in on you and maybe want, to make sure that you're okay, which you may
Right.
not be, right? And that's okay as well. Um, but you have a support system, but sometimes those people don't necessarily know how to show up for you. And you may feel some pressure to show up and almost like reassure them that you're okay. And
Yeah.
so one of the things that I would say is it's great to have a support system and it's okay to lean on your support system, but it's also okay to tell them how you want to be supported, right? So
Yeah.
you may decide that you want to come to the family function, but like you don't necessarily want to talk about the fact that your dad isn't there, or
Right.
you may need support in a particular way. You may want to be around people, but not necessarily have all of the traditional holiday plans that you did. Maybe you don't want to eat the same food because it's too much of a reminder, or you don't want to
Yeah.
participate in whatever activity because that your dad used to lead it, and so now like I need a little bit of distance from that. And so I would say if you have people who want to be supportive, it's okay to tell them, I think this is what I'm needing right now.
Yeah.
And to your point, to not feel the pressure to show up for them in a particular way. Like maybe this is a moment where you can show up for yourself and allow the people who want to support you to do that by guiding them in what you're needing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that you brought up traditions too. This is something that I was thinking about is the holidays are full of so many traditions. This holiday experience is going to look so different without your dad there. And so sometimes it depends on the person and whatever your needs are going to be different from the next. And so be okay with showing up for yourself in a way that you want to. But sometimes there can be this feeling of like, I used to do this with my dad and I have to keep this tradition alive. If that's too painful this year, if that feels like it's going to be too much, that tradition will always be there for you. You can always come back to it when you're ready. It doesn't have to be something that you do this year. You can make a new tradition, maybe in a way that you honor your dad. Oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional as I'm talking about this, but there can be ways that you can honor kind of this experience that you're going through. So whether that is through traditions that you have done in the past, whether that is finding a quiet moment either by yourself or with loved ones where you can think of your dad and honor him, or whether that just looks like creating a new tradition, in memory of him. You can adjust this year and you can always go back to the way that things were done, but it also is okay to really take a look at what your needs are and what you're needing from this holiday experience and the ones moving forward.
Yeah. And Kenzie, I just appreciate your vulnerability in that because I mean we're human as well. And so like sometimes these topics hit a certain spot within us because we're not immune to having our own life experiences and going through
Yeah.
our own forms of grief.
Yeah.
But I think you're spot on in two of the things that you said. One, it being okay to step away I think like giving yourself permission if you do decide to go to the family event or, hang out with loved ones, being okay with like, I might need to step away and give myself a moment and that's all right. Just giving yourself that out or planning ahead that, if I need to go to my car or if I need to plan a break or I'm going to be the one to run to the store and grab that item that was forgotten because it's going to give me a bit of a break, like things like that can be fine. And finding ways to honor the
Yeah.
family member. I think that that is a really, really important way to move through the grief. Um, because they're meaningful to you, and sometimes it can feel like a bit of a betrayal when you don't maybe do that thing that you always did with them or when you change a
Yeah.
tradition. But finding new ways to just acknowledge the place that they held in your life, that they continue to hold. You can ask other people to be a part of that, or you can do that completely on your own. But I think that is a part of the healing process, is being able to channel all of that love and sometimes the pain of that loss into something that feels meaningful, but feels like
Yeah.
it acknowledges and honors just the role that that person played in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's okay too. It's to that idea of it's not a betrayal. Like it's also okay to find small moments of joy if you do feel some moments of joy or some small moments throughout the holiday season. That's not a betrayal to your dad.
Mm,
That is, you might find yourself smiling or laughing or enjoying certain moments, and that might be followed with some grief because you feel maybe some guilt over the joy that you're experiencing without your dad there. But I think that it is important to know that that's okay too. That you might find some small moments of joy and you can allow yourself to feel those, and you can allow yourself to feel the grief if that comes too.
I am so glad you said that. And yes, like the holding space for more than one emotion at a time can be incredibly hard to do. But I think you're absolutely right. You may find a moment where you catch yourself laughing or catch yourself like for a split second
Yeah.
forgetting, that
Yeah.
the pain of that loss. And then that can often immediately be followed by guilt. Like, how could I be laughing when,
Right.
this is my first holiday without my dad? Like, what? And
Yeah.
so recognizing that you're a human being that's capable of more than one emotion, and you
Yeah.
can hold space for the joy of laughing at something that's funny, or the watching a movie that makes you laugh, and that is not a betrayal of your love for your dad. It Sometimes this usually happens a little bit later on, so I know this is still fresh, but sometimes it can almost feel like your loyalty to that person requires that you
Yeah.
hold on to that grief and that pain. Almost like if you let that go, then you let go of the love that you have for them. And that is so not true. Life is nuanced, and there are highs and lows, there are ups and downs. And in most instances, people who we love and who love us back probably want us to still live, right? Like we're still here. And so joy is a part of living, and it is okay to lean into those moments of happiness or joy or excitement, and also still hold space for the fact that that pain, that loss still exists for you. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something else that I would just say to this listener is I know that we touched on this in a previous episode, but having like joining a support group in this time could be really beneficial and helpful.
Mhm.
Um, there is so much grief that's not just going to come in this holiday season, but in this next year, in the years to come. This is an incredibly difficult experience to go through. And so having a group of people who also understand and who you can share all of those thoughts with, like, you can talk to somebody about, I feel really guilty about the fact that I enjoyed this part of Christmas Eve, and for them to understand and to get it and to normalize and validate could be really beneficial. And so if there are any support groups that you could find, I think that that could be helpful as well.
100%. Yeah, talking to people who can relate and just not feeling so isolated can be incredibly comforting. And just feeling like somebody else gets it. Somebody else is also feeling sad when they go outside and all the houses are decorated and there's lights everywhere. Like just knowing that you're not alone in feeling that can be
Yeah.
great. And I would also offer the resource, a book, It's Okay That You're Not Okay. Um, the author of that, Megan Devine, I believe, where basically the book talks about the fact that grief is not something that you get over. Like sometimes people are trying to just move on. And of course, we've been heavily like focused on the grief of loss of like someone passing. But sometimes it can be the loss of a relationship, the loss of a job, like I mean, grief can it can be broad. It's not just when someone passes,
Yeah.
and so and sometimes there can be this pressure to like move on, like when are you going to get over this? When are you going to like be happy again? Or you're
Yeah.
almost trying to dig yourself out of something, but it just feels like no matter how much you dig, like you're still in it.
Yeah.
And so the book talks about living alongside grief, that grief is like normal. It's not something to be fixed. It's not something to like get rid of. You learn to live with it. You
Yeah.
learn that because of the connection that you have to this person, this relationship, whatever it is that you're grieving, it becomes a part of you. It becomes a part of your experience. And that's normal. That's not to be changed. That's to be embraced.
Yeah.
And you learn to kind of like accept it and move through life with it, as opposed to
Right.
wishing that the day will come where you won't think about it or where it won't affect you. That may not be realistic. And so
Yeah.
you learn to accept it and live with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just makes me to think too about this idea of like, especially this holiday season, just take it moment by moment. Just show up for yourself in the moment, um, and nurture yourself in the way that you need, and be okay with knowing that those waves of grief are going to come, and you kind of have to ride them, and um, know that there's going to be highs and there's going to be lows, but you've been able to manage those emotional grief waves up until this point, and this is another chapter and experience of that. um, it's not going to be easy, and it's not fair, and it's so difficult to have to go through, and um, I hope that that in whatever way you show up, you're doing the best that you can.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a closing thought on my end is just a reminder of like the duality of life, and that sometimes the experience of pain and just like how intense and overwhelming that can be, the pain of loss, how it can also in a weird way help you to appreciate the joy of connection. It can help you to be more present with the people that you love and care about. And so, trying to lean into that duality. Sometimes our experiences of pain and loss can make feeling connected and being together and experiencing joy that much more intense, because we know what
Mm.
it feels like to not have that. We know what it feels like to be lacking in that. And so I would encourage this listener to consider that, just how this whole experience can add to their ability to really embrace and appreciate the life that they do have, the people that they do have that are still here. Because, we can kind of go through life, and if you've not experienced any grief, like we can be a little disconnected from the reality of just how fleeting our time is here, of how quickly things can change. This person didn't necessarily clarify if this was like a sudden loss or if it happened over time, but in a split second, things can change. And so to just be present and appreciative of the moments that we do have, because we recognize that just like this holiday will be different than any one past, every holiday will be different. And we don't know who or what will make it with us or if we'll make it there for that matter. And so just that reminder to live every day, you know?
I love that. And I think that my kind of closing thoughts, they're a little bit different, is not necessarily for this listener who submitted this question, but is just for listeners in general. If you know somebody that is going to be going through a difficult holiday season, I know that this listener said that they have friends and family reaching out to make plans. And that's probably their way of wanting to like show that they care and show up for them. But it also can be really like just touching and meaningful to reach out to a person that you know is going through grief this holiday season and just saying, hey, I know that you're really going to be missing your dad today, or, we miss having your dad here. Like, I love you. I'm here for you. Acknowledging the grief that this person is going through. Maybe just sending a text so that they're able to process it on their own time, but just kind of checking in and letting somebody know that they can talk about, that they can grieve this experience, that it's not this like elephant in the room with everybody, that it's something that's acknowledged because it's going to be there for this person. They're going to feel it.
Yeah.
And so acknowledging it and being there to support whoever might be going through that grief, I think is helpful too.
Yeah, 100%. Sometimes people want to support and they just don't know how, right? They just aren't sure the best way to do that. But I think you're spot on with that piece of advice. Just want to send such a heartfelt and comforting just sense of love and, concern and care for people who are managing the grief of loss this holiday. You're actually not alone in that. Like Kenzie mentioned, support groups can be great. It can feel very isolating, but you're not alone. And so do remember that it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
And just want to wish you a new holiday experience for whatever that is. And this moment, this time, this holiday season will pass and you will, continue living. And so just want to send comfort, to people who are in that space right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Sending such a big hug. Like this is a really difficult time. And so hopefully you have people that you can talk to, that you can lean on. And we appreciate, you sending in this question too.
Absolutely. All right. I think with that, we are signing off. Wishing everyone happy holidays, especially.
That's it for today's episode. We hope it gave you something to reflect on, or maybe even that aha moment.
If so, you know the drill. Rate, review, subscribe, and don't forget to text it to the group chat. Remember, sharing is caring.
If you have a question you want us to tackle, big or small, we want to hear it.
Email us at info@askatherapistpod.com or slide into our DMs on Instagram at askatherapist_pod.
You bring the questions.
We'll bring the insight and probably a metaphor or two.
This is Ask a Therapist.
See you next time.